Hi, I'm Dakshita. I'm going to help you get started with Bijira, WSO2's AI-native API management SaaS platform. Let's get started. So head over to wso2.com/Bijira and click the sign up for free button, and you will be presented with the sign up screen. Go to the sign up link and select how you want to sign up. You can use your Google account or your GitHub account or even your Microsoft account, or you can simply add your email address to sign up. Let's sign up with Google. Select your Gmail account and you will be asked to sign into ascadio.io, which is the underlying identity and access manager used by Bijira. So click continue. Here, you need to create your first organization, which is going to be associated with your account. So let's add a name. I'm going to call it Org ABC. Check this box to agree with the privacy policy and terms of use and click create. You can opt to receive the latest updates and events from Bijira. Click confirm. And here you will have to select a region. Right now, we have two options. I'm going to go ahead with US and then click confirm. Now you can see the Bijira dashboard where you can start building and managing your APIs right away. So you're inside your default project and you can create your very first API proxy here, or even inside a separate project. You can create a new project or use the default project. I'm going to go ahead with the default project. So let's go over the dashboard for a bit. On the left, you've got your main navigation from developing and testing your APIs to deploying them, monitoring insights, and checking observability metrics. It's all there. Now in the center, you'll see your options for creating an API. Under My APIs or Ingress APIs, you can either import an OpenAPI contract, start from an endpoint, or even create one from scratch. You can also try the Gen AI option, which can help generate an API for you based on a few prompts. And over on the right are the third-party APIs or the egress APIs you want to manage. This lets you integrate with external APIs more easily. You can import contracts or just browse ready-to-use APIs. And finally, there's a dedicated section for AI APIs, which are specially designed for agent and AI-driven workloads. Let's go ahead and create our first API proxy using an existing OpenAPI file. Go to Import API Contract, and here you can see that Bijira gives you a quick way to try this feature by using a simple sample API URL. But I'm going to go ahead and use a different API contract. So let me find the URL for that. I will copy this and paste it here. Bijira automatically fetches the API definition and passes it for you. So on the right, you will see the fetched OpenAPI spec definition. And this is a list of all the endpoints defined in your OpenAPI spec. For example, this one returns the client's IP address, and user agent here gives you the browser's user agent string, and UUID returns a unique ID generated using the UUID version 4 specification, which is good for things like generating session IDs or request identifiers. And then you also get some post endpoints here, and these are used for base 64 encoding and decoding. So this view helps you understand exactly what the API does without opening the YAML file yourself to preview what your API does before actually creating it. So once you're happy with what you see, you can just click Next to continue and set up your API proxy. So in this screen, you can see that the details have been pre-filled from the contract. And you've got the API name, the identifier, and the base path it will be served on. A description and the actual target backend URL are filled in for you. At the bottom, you can choose if this API should be externally accessible or only available internally within your organization. I'll go with externally so I can test it openly. Now just click create. And just like that, Bijira is setting up your API proxy. It's configuring all the backend policies, paths, and security layers for you. And the API proxy is created, and you can see the lifecycle status as created. So Bijira has now deployed the API in the development environment. We can check the deployment status of the API by clicking on Deploy in the left-hand menu. You will see the deployment status in the development environment updated to show the status as active. So this means that your API is now deployed in your development environment. So now you can do your testing before you push it into production. So let's navigate to the test menu here. You can see that Bijira actually gives you a few options to test, like the OpenAPI console, curl commands, or even an API chat interface. For this walkthrough, I'll use the OpenAPI console, which is the easiest way to quickly try out the API right inside Bijira. Because the API proxy is secured by default, you will need a key to invoke it. So Bijira automatically generates one for you when you land here. So you don't need to manually create or copy anything. Right, you need to select the environment from here and make sure to select development from the environment dropdown, since that's where we just deployed our API. Now let's expand the UUID method, and here you'll get the try it out button. Click try it out to prepare a live test call. So before we run the test, let's see what this endpoint actually does. This is a simple get method called UUID. It will return a unique ID following the UUID version 4 format. The API call responds with a JSON object that contains a randomly generated UUID, like this example you see here. So every time you make a request, you'll get a brand new UUID value. All right, now that we know what to expect, let's go ahead and execute the request and see it live. If you see a response like this with a unique UUID string returned, that means your API proxy is working exactly as expected. You can see the response headers, and we can confirm that our API proxy works as expected in the development environment. Now we can promote it to the production environment. So let's head back to the deploy section from the left-hand menu. And under the development card, you will see a promote button. Click this button to start moving this API into production. So in the configuration pane, Bijira asks how you want to set up the production environment. So we'll keep things simple and select Use Development Endpoint Configuration, which means the same backend endpoint will be used in production too. If you want to point your production environment to a different backend, for example, a production-grade server, you can update the endpoint to a different one. So we click the next button and got here. The production card now shows the status as active, which means your API is now live in the production environment too. And just like in development, you can quickly test your API in production if you want to double-check if everything is working smoothly. You can go to test, but here you have to choose the production environment instead of the development environment to test the production setup. Right, we're going to skip this step. Now that our API is deployed in both environments and is ready to be invoked, the next step is to publish it so that consumers can discover and subscribe to the API. In the left-hand menu under Develop, go to Lifecycle. So here you will see the different lifecycle stages your API can go through. Right now, the lifecycle status is created, which means it's not yet publicly available. Click the Publish button to make this API available in the Bijira developer portal. You'll get a confirmation dialog asking if you want to proceed. If you need to change the display name for your API, you can do it here. Otherwise, click Confirm to continue. And just like that, the API's lifecycle stage changed to published, which means it's now officially available for API consumers. So from here, consumers can discover, subscribe, and start using your API directly. So let's move to the developer portal to generate credentials and actually invoke the API. Let's click Developer Portal. So this is what the landing page of the developer portal looks like. To invoke our managed API, we first need to create an application. The application behaves like a container for your API subscriptions and keys. In the left menu, click Applications. Then click Create Application. Give your application a simple name like Sample App or Test App and click Create. Once your application is created, go to the API section. And here you can see that our sample API is already listed since we published it to the developer portal. You can choose the application from the drop-down. So Test App is already chosen for us, and you can click Subscribe. And we have successfully subscribed to the API. Next, we need to open the application again. Let's go to the app, and you need to click Generate Key here. So here you see this pop-up where you can view the credentials. You can also tweak advanced configurations here if needed, But for now, we'll stick to the default settings. So after the keys are generated, you can click this Generate button to get an access token. This token will let you securely call your API. So go ahead and copy the token. Now let's go back to the APIs list. Click Sample API. Now let's use the token to invoke this API. So you need to click on Documentation. And you can view the API definition, and you can also do your testing here. Let's pick an API resource. So I want to test the UUID resource. So once you get to this documentation page of this resource, you can see this section to add your token. So you need to type bearer and paste your token, and then you can click Send API Request. If everything is set up correctly, you get a response back, which is our UUID, and this confirms that our API is live, secured, and fully functional. So if you want to test this further, you can go ahead and remove this token and send the API request again, and you will see that we get an invalid credentials error message. And that's it. You're all set to start building your API proxies with Bijira. If you want more information, check out the documentation. See you in the next one.